Welcome back to Duel Academy. Today, another Tag Force 3 deck showcase. This time, we're taking a look at Archfiends. These chess-themed fiend monsters are primarily known for being used by the first Shadow Rider to appear in the show, Titan. While this rendition of Archfiends is really interesting from a thematic perspective, unfortunately they were cursed with just some awful effects. The first gimmick is that everything in the archetype pretty much has a mandatory life point maintenance cost, meaning you have to take out your opponent pretty fast or you'll risk burning yourself to death. Even more confusing is the second effect that's shared across most of the archetype's monsters, that being some inbuilt protection against targeting effects, but for some reason it's contingent on a die roll? Konami's design decisions when it comes to Archfiends are baffling to say the least, but regardless, that archetype is the focus of today's video. They definitely lend themselves to an aggro-focused game plan because of the fact that most of their monsters have some pretty respectable attack stats, and a few of the cards actually have some pretty potent effects, namely Terrorking Archfiend and the exclusive equip spell Falling Down. And of course, I'm leaning into a little bit of jank here. We're focusing heavy on the draw power and trying to make use of the archetype's biggest boss monster, Imprisoned Queen Archfiend. Without further ado, let's just jump straight into the duels. Our first duel is up against the one and only Chumley Huffington. We open pretty well here. We're immediately able to trade in that Queen Archfiend out of our hand, and the Spirit Reaper gives us some defense for going first. This deck definitely prefers to go second, but we can make use of a few options if we need to go first. Back on turn 3 here, we go ahead and add the Pandemonium by ditching the Archfiend General. Then we can summon out the other copy of General and swing in for 21, but he's got the Scapegoat. Unfortunate, so this is going to stall us out for a little bit here, and we're forced to just attack a token. Now here we can see he sets a monster and then sets his whole hand, so we can automatically just assume that that's a Morphing Jar. The Queen Archfiend has a Grave effect that allows us to boost the attack of our level 4 or lower fiends, so we can boost Archfiend General up to 3100, summon the Terror King and swing over the Morphing Jar because Terror King negates the effect of any monster that it destroys, meaning that we can stop the Morphing Jar from resolving, so that way we can, stop him from gaining all that extra advantage. Now, he's still just playing very defensively, so it's time to go aggro. I flip up the Spirit Reaper since we can use it to take out one of the tokens. I'm going to go ahead and activate the Heavy Storm. This is overall a 3-for-4 trade, so it still ends up being worth it even though we lose the Pandemonium and Archfiend General. I can just search out another Pandemonium and it's really no big deal. Down comes Snipe Hunter and we can reborn the Imprisoned Queen just to get as much damage on board as possible, and we're going to push over all of these monsters. Back to Chumley, he has no cards, he's relying solely on this top deck, and of course it's not going to be enough to save him. We can go ahead here and fire off the Snipe Hunter, ditching these swords to just clear out this face down monster so we don't have any risk of it being anything important at all, and we can swing in for exact game. Alright, Duel 2 is up against Zane and his Cyberdark deck. Unfortunately, we open a pretty terrible hand and we were forced to go first, so I just have to pass on an empty board and hope he doesn't kill. He summons out the Chthonian Emperor Dragon by future fusioning it from the deck to the graveyard and then summoning it back with the Monster Reborn, but even though we take a bunch of damage, it's not the worst thing in the world. We can go ahead and use the Archfiend Soldier to put him on the board. Now we have an Archfiend on board, which means we can activate Falling Down and snatch that dragon for ourselves and return the favor. Now at this point we have taken quite a bit of damage already, but our opponent is even more hurt than we are, and with only one set monster on the board, it's probably not going to be enough. I go ahead here and decide to summon out a Mist Archfiend just to be extra careful to make sure we absolutely have the damage to end the game. Chthonian Emperor is going to swing in, and we can end him with his own monster. For the final duel, we're taking on Titan himself and his version of the Archfiend deck. It's a little bit different from what we're running. He's using an anime-exclusive combo of Archfiend Matador, which is some weird ritual monster, and the Dark Arena Field spell, which allows him to basically have this very weird defensive game plan where he tries to make you destroy all of your own monsters. We open up by trying to summon the Mist Archfiend, and he torrentials, but that's okay. We've got the Premature. We can just summon it straight back and swing in for 24. He goes ahead and summons the Sonic Bird on his turn and equips it with an Axe of Despair. Now he does this because Dark Arena forces you to attack, so he would have had to attack and lose 1,000 if he did not use that Axe of Despair, and we would have been able to keep the Mist Archfiend. But he crashes, and we both lose our monsters. I summon the Shadow Knight, get in for only 1,000 because Shadow Knight does half damage. Advanced Ritual Art on his turn is going to summon out the Archfiend Matador, and of course he's forced to crash the Manju, but this is a problem. Archfiend Matador, if you don't know, it can't be destroyed by battle, and it can't attack. And if you attack it, which you have to if Dark Arena is on the field, it destroys the monster that attacks it. So this is kind of his game plan, is to sit on this. I'm not sure what his actual win condition is, but whatever. It's kind of unfortunate that we have to deal with this annoying monster. We're basically just waiting for an out. Really can't do much here. Unfortunately, these Imprisoned Queens are just absolutely breaking up our hand. I try to use Pandemonium to get rid of the Dark Arena, but no luck, unfortunately. We just have to pass again. On his turn, he manages to summon out a Summon Skull, which is quite threatening. If you don't know, Summon Skull is actually treated as an Archfiend monster, so it kind of makes sense why he's running it in the deck. There actually is a Archfiend exclusive retrain version. I'm not sure why he's not playing that version, but I guess it's probably because he's not running the Pandemonium version of the deck. Regardless, Heavy Storm is going to clear out both the Dark Arena and the Premature Burial, and I reborn the Summon Skull to our side of the field, so that way we can just have the big body sitting there, even though we still can't really do anything with it. Finally, on turn 18, we draw some sort of draw power. I can banish an Imprisoned Queen with Allure and then trade in the other. We've dug 4 cards deeper into our deck, but unfortunately, we still haven't found any removal for this dang ritual monster. Now, I did make a mistake here. I really should have ran over that face-down monster, and I just forgot. I passed turn without even thinking about it, and unfortunately, he's able to get out another Summoned Skull. I can go ahead and use the Falling Down here to finally remove this Archfiend Matador off the field by taking it and then using it as tribute fodder for our Jinzo. I can then go ahead and crash the Summoned Skulls into one another and get in for 24. We are in a very good situation now. We can finally look to win the game. But of course, it can't be that easy. He's going to be able to add it back from the graveyard to his hand and then ritual summon it again, making me really regret tributing it off. Unfortunate, it's back on the field and we have to deal with it all over again. But thankfully this time we don't have to wait nearly as long. I'm able to draw the Brain Control, so I Trunade just to make sure that back row is not going to affect us. Use the Brain Control to steal the monster, and we can go ahead and get in for game finally. Alright, so overall, what are my thoughts on the Archfiend deck? I think this is actually a pretty interesting archetype, and there's quite a few cards to play around with, meaning that you can actually make various different builds of this deck with varying success rates. This Imprisoned Queen variant I think is by far the most fun because it is the fastest and most explosive. It's not necessarily the most consistent because you are running a lot of bricks, but in testing it did end up being my favorite version. The inherent flaws of this archetype's design still landed firmly in the category of jank, but in all honesty, it's surprisingly powerful, and I think if you're just looking for a very fun aggro deck to play in Tag Force 3, Archfiends are not a bad option. But anyways, that's enough rambling from me. Thank you very much for watching. Leave a like on this video if you enjoyed. Let me know what decks you would like to see next time. And of course, subscribe for more Tag Force content. I'm going to be trying to put out at least 2 videos a week. This one took a little bit longer than I would have liked due to some technical issues, but trust me when I say there is plenty more to come. Oh, and I forgot to mention it at the beginning of the video, but don't forget that if you want a full deck list, it's always down in the description below. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you again soon.